All right, welcome. Good evening, people here and online. Yeah, we're almost done with Nagarjuna. A little bit left. I think this evening, and then maybe two more, right? Yeah, and then we finish the text. Yeah. So, again, before we start, make sure, because it's very much Lamrim-based text, as we know. So try to generate also motivation in accordance with Lamrim, either want to express human rebirth in order to achieve enlightenment or liberation, right? Or even more than that, try to think to become a Buddha in order to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. So try to generate that motivation for yourself. And then imagine the Buddha in front, surrounded by the masters of method and wisdom, and surrounding yourself. Imagine countless sentient beings, who are in the cycle of rebirth, the contaminated birth, sickness, aging, and death, constantly suffering, and think you have to do something about it. And you start that responsibility by leading them in prayers. So based on that, recite the prayers.
To the Founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sagata and knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the Founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sagata and knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the Founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sagata and knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then I prostrate. With pure bodies, formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, colour like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Saviour having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to thusness I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, and the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly, this is the teachings of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe false, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. I prostrate to the Arya triple gem. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on a mass of vulturous mountain in Rajgriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of a lineage train who wishes to practice the activities of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasatha Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Sharavatiputra. Shariputra, any son of a lineage or daughter of a lineage who wishes to practice the activities of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristics, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomena. There is no eye element, and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the 3 times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra, the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as truth since it is not false. The mantra, the perfection of wisdom, is declared, Taya ta gate gate paragate para samgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasatha, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasatha Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of a lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, and the Venerable Sharavatiputra, and the Bodhisattva Mahasatha Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the worlds of gods, humans, asuras, and Gadavas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan.
I prostrate
to the gathering of Takinis and the 3 chakras who abide in the holy yoga of using space. By her powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation, look after a practitioner like a mother her child.
Akasamarasasna samarayapi, tayata, gate para samgate bodhi soha.
By the teachings of the 3 supreme jewels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed, may they be dispelled, may they be pacified, may all negative forces opposed to the Dharma be completely pacified, may the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified, may we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to the Dharma, may all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma, and may there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness here, right now. Foundation of all good qualities is a kind and perfect pure Guru. Correct devotion to the Guru is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely upon the Guru with great respect. Please bless me to rely upon the Guru with great respect. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once, is greatly meaningful and is difficult to find again. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. This life is impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. Finding a firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. Please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest negativities and accomplish all virtuous deeds. Seeking samsaric pleasures is the door to all suffering. They are uncertain and cannot be relied upon. Recognizing these shortcomings, please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Led by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. The root of the teachings is keeping the pratimoksha vows. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so have all other migratory beings. Please bless me to see this and train in supreme bodhicitta and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. Please bless me to see this and train into supreme bodhicitta and bear the responsibility of freeing my greater beings. Even if I develop only bodhicitta, but I do not practice the 3 types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. Please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. Once I pacified distractions to wrong objects and correctly analyzed the meaning of reality, please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. Please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. Having become a pure vessel by training in the general path, please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. Please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. At that time, the basis of accomplishing the 2 attainments is keeping pure vows and samaya. As I become firmly convinced of this, please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. Please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. Then, having realized the importance of the 2 stages and the essence of the Vajrayana, by practicing with great energy and never giving up the 4 sessions, please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. Please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. Like that, may the Gurus who show the noble path and spiritual friends who practice it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Please bless me to pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. And all my lives may never be separated from perfect Gurus. May I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the stages and the paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. May I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. Sajipuki Joshimeto Dramriralenji Nindegyempadi Sangeshindu Miteruai Drokunandajinla Shubashojesun Lama Dambhagena Kichukala Yense Juzintri Jita Sambe Duje Jimala Jabgechu Kichapa Wabdu Solidam Guru Rana Mandara Kamniratayami Sangye Chedan Sungye Chanam La Chanju Badu Dani Gyabsuji Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonam Gi Chola Penji Sangye Drubasho Sangye Chedan Sungye Chanam La Chanju Badu Dani Gyabsuji Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonam Gi Chola Penji Sangye Drubasho Sangye Chedan Sungye Chanam La Chanju Badu Dani Gyabsuji Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonam Gi Chola Penji Sangye Drubasho.
Yeah, so in the text, we're reaching a part with regards to the precious rebirth and deaths and impermanence. So, maybe start with a few quotes. As you know, Shantideva, famous quote of, now you found this boat that can bring you to the other shore, can bring you beyond cyclic existence. Now you have found this boat to cross the ocean of samsara. If you don't use it, then you be considered a fool. So wake up, So that's one way is true. Now we have, with all the freedoms and endowments, we have the various causes and conditions to train our mind. Yeah, so we should use it right now. Dharmakirti, you know. Dharmakirti says, Tadagi negapmasena means if you don't use the opportunity now you have the possibility to control your mind or subdue your mind. Duva, simba. Yeah. So now you have the opportunity to subdue your mind. If you don't do that, then when will you find that opportunity again? Yeah. So if you find yourself in other rebirths in samsara where you do not have the conditions you have now, then it's very difficult to subdue your mind. You're right. Then Gaza Padamba Sangye, one of the great masters of ancient India, who came to Tibet. You know the story, right? So he came to Tibet, and then he met Geshe Milarepa. Milarepa initially was in disguise in a few pieces of wood, a few sticks. And then Padamba Sangye, with his clairvoyance, he knew those sticks was Milarepa, so he kicked those sticks in the corner and said, "Show your real form." And then Geshe Milarepa appeared. And then Padamba Sangye said, "Okay, let's do a test. Sit on the grass without bending it." Yeah, so then sitting on the grass without bending it. And then Milarepa's grass was slightly, not much, but slightly bent. Yeah, when we sit, it completely is squashed, right? Yeah, so Milarepa was slightly bent, and Padamba Sangye was sitting on top, but there's no bend in the grass. Yeah, so the control over the elements. And then Padamba Sangye said, "Oh, in India, there's not many people who can do that anymore. It's very fortunate to see that we have people in Tibet." Yeah, so there was a time of degeneration happening already in India, the time Padamba Sangye came to Tibet. Yeah. And then Padamba Sangye gave this famous teaching in Dingri, you know, the area in Dingri. So the 100 forms of advice, right? Dering Gyatsa, for the people from Dingri. And there he also has the analogy with monkeys in the forest, just playing around, but on the edge of the forest there's a fire getting closer, but the monkey's still playing. Yeah, so similarly we should use this opportunity, similar what Dharmakirti indicates, right? We should use this opportunity now we have it to escape samsara or to subdue our mind, because if we born in a place just as humans in war zones or famine or gang violence, or then it will be very difficult to subdue the mind, because your mind is occupied constantly with the things that go around you, right? Yeah. So now we're very lucky to have this freedom, so it's very important to use it now. Yeah. And then forget the lower realms. You know, if you're born in the lower realms, then no way you can do anything with the mind. You're just stuck in cyclic existence, right? So there's a few kind of quotes that helps us to get focused, get our act together, and use this incredible, fortunate opportunity we have right now. Yeah, and we know this opportunity is not going to last forever. Yeah, and we're going to die, and that's one aspect, you know. And then when we find it again, is a big question. Yeah, and this opportunity, as we know, has great meaning. Yeah, we can achieve a precious human rebirth based on what we have now. We can achieve liberation, and we can achieve enlightenment. Yeah, and we can create causes every moment, so to say, for those great purposes, right? So yeah, that's in short that we should use this fortunate opportunity. Yeah, that is a few verses. The famous one, a few of the famous one will come up. Yeah, by Arya Nagarjuna's in the letter for a friend. Yeah. So, so we are in verse number 55, right? We finished 54, so 55. There, first, there's kind of 55 and 56. Yeah, there are kind of two verses that helps us to think about impermanence and death. Yeah, because next to the precious human rebirth, the precious human rebirth gives you this kind of, wow, I have this opportunity. Yeah, death and impermanence gives this kind of thing of, oops, it's not going to last forever. I better use it. Yeah, so that's kind of. Sometimes it happens that with contemplation on death and impermanence, that the mind gets a little bit kind of like, oops, you know, it's kind of, yeah. So then it's good to combine it sometimes with pressure rebirth, that you combine those two together, yeah. So here it says in verse 55, life is impermanent. It is best by many misfortunes, yeah? Like a bubble of water caught by the wind. So if you have a high mountain and there's some water there, or, you know, sometimes there's a heavy rain, then those bubbles come, remember? I don't know, remember, but you know, right? Yeah. Those bubbles, they come, and then the wind just blows them, and they're gone, right? It's like that. So our body is very similar. It's like a water bubble, you know? We know if you contemplate death and impermanence, then the first meditation is that death is definite. Yeah, that's not too difficult to comprehend, that we are going to die. And why are we going to die? Because there's no escape. You cannot go and find a place, or you cannot go to a doctor who prevents you from dying, or you cannot take a medicine that prevents you from dying. Yeah, there's no escape, basically. That's going to happen. You can have the best doctors in the world, but when the time to die is there, nobody can stop you, right? Yeah, and so there's no escape, yeah, of death. And then the second reason is that death is definite, is that we're getting closer to death rather than death getting further away. Yeah, so every step we take is closer to death, right? There's a song, every step you take. But it was not with regards of dying, you know, something else, I think, I forgot. Yeah. But yeah, it's true, right? We're going, if that's, let's say you reach the age of 80 or 90, if that's your given lifespan, then you know how old you are, and you know that's gone. Yeah, and then every year, another year is gone, every hour, another hour is gone, every minute, another minute is gone, every second is closer. So if you have a timer, you know, and then you put 90 years, you minus the years that passed, and then you put the remaining time in this countdown, yeah, and then you let it count down, and then you should have a timer with split seconds, yeah, that goes so fast that you hardly can see the change, you know, you just see the 8, you know, of this, yeah, and then a little bit closer to the seconds, you see that it's going extremely fast, yeah, so that's kind of that is approaching, yeah, that's really going to happen, you know. So that way, we're looking at a clock from that point of view can be quite helpful, yeah. And yeah, and then we won't be able to finish projects we're planning to finish. Yeah, that doesn't wait until you finish something. Yeah, even sometimes people planning to get married tomorrow and today they die. It happens, right? It's stories like that. Yeah. So that doesn't wait. Yeah? So that we see that death is definite. So to see that death is definite, those contemplations are not too difficult to realize that we are going to die. But the second contemplation is a little bit more challenging, right? That the time of death is very uncertain. Yeah. So the time of death is uncertain because there's no fixed lifespan. Yeah, there's no guarantee you're gonna get to 80 or 90. You can die early. You can die. Some children die in the womb. Some people die before they finish education. Some people die before they get their pension. And some people die later, but there's a lot of people who die early, right? So there's no fixed lifespan, you know. So that's kind of very uncertain, yeah. And there's so many causes and conditions that cause us to die rather than sustaining life. Yeah, even when you're sick, there's various kind of medications, but certain medications have a lot of side effects, and it becomes very complicated. Once I was translating for a doctor, an American doctor in our monastery. He stayed for a few years with his wife. Did very nice work, and we had one monk who had TB, and he had problems with his liver and his kidneys, and it was very sad. So then the doctor said, if I give this medicine, then his kidneys will be harmed. If I give this, his liver gets harmed. If this, so at one point of time, there's nothing you can do, you know. So that's kind of there's so many causing conditions that causes death, rather than that sustains life, right? Yeah. So, and then regarding to this point we just talked about, our body is like a water bubble. It doesn't look like a water bubble, but if you really look what's inside and you see all the organs, you know, functioning, it's a miracle. It all works. Yeah, it's very easy for one organ to, you know, to disintegrate or to degenerate, or there's some issues and the whole system collapses, right? Yeah. So then you see that the time of death is very uncertain. Yeah, because of these reasons. Yeah. And then the only thing that is of benefit when you die is your mental development. Yeah, the training, or the dharma, as we say, wealth, possessions, fame, you know, reputation. It's all going. You know, you leave everything behind when you die. Only your mind goes. So that's why we say it's important to develop the mind. You know, because the mind is going. So yeah, so that's why we should take effort. And then we know that the time is uncertain. With the first step, that is definite. We know, okay, I have to do something. Yeah, and then when the time is uncertain, then it's okay, I have to do something now. Yeah, and then you contemplate the kasa. That only the dharma will have benefit. That means I have to start practicing dharma right now, as we speak, from this moment onwards. Yeah, so that's kind of. Yeah, because when you die, then it's just a question where you end up in your next life. Yeah, that we know when we fall asleep in our dreams, you know, there's no control, right? So when you die, is even a more complex kind of system of, you know, things to look at. You know, so that's why contemplation on death and impermanence can be very helpful in our motivation. Yeah, not to waste time and to engage in development of the mind, you know. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what it says here. Life is impermanent, and many misfortunes, like a bubble. Yeah, so this like a bubble is referring to the second aspect of contemplation on death and impermanence, meaning that the time is uncertain because our body is like very fragile, you know. And it also says, yeah, if you inhale or exhale. If you inhale, you think you're going to exhale. If you exhale, you think you're going to inhale. But in between, you can die. Yeah, so it's very easy to die. You just have to stop breathing, and heartbeat has to stop, and that's it. Yeah, our heart is when you go to sleep at night, we knock ourselves unconsciousness, but this heart is just constantly working. Yeah, so yeah, but so it just has to stop, or complications, and that's it. Yeah, so you don't know what comes earlier. Your next breath or the death, right? That's if you really use logical reasoning, there's no. And everybody thinks, yeah, I'm not going to die today, I'm not going to die tomorrow. And people who have cancer and heart attacks and gaza, strokes and infections and yeah, all kind of unfortunate kind of sickness. Then if the doctor says you know they're more or less been told they're going to die, they still think it's not going to happen today. Right, so it's kind of this grasping to permanence, yeah, that prevents us from developing our mind, yeah, that prevents us from getting into the path, you know, yeah. So then it says, and awakens from sleep is wonderful, is a miracle, yeah. So even my mother, I always use that as an example, and she knows I'm using her as an example. But I told her I mostly talk about the good things, so she's quite happy with that, yeah. But she also once said, he said, when I wake up, she's 81 now and she has some health complications, but she says it's such a miracle it all works. You know, it's true. In one way it's true, right? When you wake up, it's quite a miracle that it all functions, you know. Yeah. Yeah, so we don't know if tomorrow comes or death comes first, right? Yeah. So that's kind of few contemplations on death and impermanence, and in particular that is definite, the time is uncertain, and that only the Dharma will be of benefit when you die, right? The mind training will be of benefit, all the other things you have to leave behind. Yeah. Then it says, know that the insubstantial body, at the end, become ashes, dried, purged or impure. Yeah, depends what they do with your body. These days in the West, it's all nicely put in a coffin box, and some people, they have very expensive ones. And then it's going to be burned or put somewhere in the ground. Yeah. So in the West, things are very much, hidden. Yeah, quite hidden in the West. If you go to Varanasi in India, then you see the corpses being brought, and quite a few every day. Yeah, if you sit there and contemplate on death and impermanence, it's very powerful. Yeah, for some people, it's too much. When my father was there, when we went on pilgrimage with the Buddhist center from the Netherlands to Bodh and the different Buddhist holy sites, then also we went to Varanasi. And there were many corpses that day. And you see, right, you see just a few, bamboo kind of beds, and on top of that is just corpse with just a sheet on top. There's no coffin, and it's just from sometimes, it's poor people or, so everybody. And then they get burned, and you see the corpses being burned just in front of your eyes. Yeah, there's not that it all goes on the ground or something, and like we have in the West, There you just see the fire, you see the person laying on top and burn, and then they make sure everything burns, so they poke and do all kind of things. So it's quite powerful. So my father couldn't see it for too long. Because then you see that and this body is going to be like that, And in India you see them sometimes just carrying the body just on some on bamboo on a bed, and then you see the body laying there, right? Yeah. So it's very true. Yeah, that's going to happen, with our body. Yeah. So it says here, ashes or dried up, or So in Tibet they give it to the vultures, So it can get disposed, right? Because when the consciousness left the body, it's just a collection of bones and meat and organs that starts to smell, right? So then you dispose it somewhere. Either you burn it, or you put it on the ground, or in early days, or give it to the vultures, like in Tibet. So it's just been disposed with. So we hold so much to this body, but actually is for the purpose of the Dharma is a good vessel, right? But other than that, is you just put so much time and effort into the body, and then you die. So you can put a lot of time and effort into this body, but of course take care of your health, and that's important. But for the purpose of the Dharma, right? But then for the rest, then this is that's it, By our mind, because the future lifetimes are much longer in duration than this body lives, right? This body maybe 80, 90 years, but future lifetimes, if you don't develop yourself, it's going to be a very long time. So that's why it's better to invest in long-term benefits, right? So that's kind of two verses related with our own death. And then verse 57, it also talks about other aspects in the world and in the universe, like whole mountains and planets. After some time they disintegrate. So same as our planet Earth, we had a time of the dinosaurs and those kind of periods of time, they're gone. That's gone. So there will be an end of human existence as well one day, right? So and then a new evolution starts. It's kind of So if the world starts to burn, and then if you see natural disasters, within no time, a whole forest gets just wiped out, or a whole hill or mountain just collapses, right? So or a whole planet can collapse. If you look in the universe, then there's whole planets that one point of time collapse, or an asteroid bumps into it and it destroys all life, just like that, So if one of those big asteroids, they also show that on sometimes, this one is coming in another billion years, or so. I say no, 10,000 or something years, or yeah, or close to the earth. You know, there's always these interesting stories, right? But in the past, a few had impact, right, on the earth and destroyed life to a great extent. Yeah, so if that's possible, then our little tiny body, you know, of course, it's very fragile. You know, so that's here been explained in verse 57, right? That even like the earth and mountains, yeah, here Mount Meru, oceans, it will go consumed by the flames of the 7 suns. You know, so yeah, it's getting hotter, and we only have one sun, but it's going to be hotter and hotter and hotter. That's kind of a thing that's going to happen on this planet as well, right? So yeah. And there will be a time that things just become difficult, yeah, to sustain, comfortable life in the world, right? Yeah. So yeah, and that then our own body is just, it's just very tiny, you know, yeah. Then 58, there it says, "Oh, best of men." So 58 is then referring to based on impermanence. Yeah, like then try to generate kind of renunciation. Yeah, so impermanence is one of the most powerful meditations. Yeah, that we say impermanence helps us to enter the path, right? And impermanence helps us, to make our practice pure, and impermanence helps us to achieve our goals. You know, yeah. Sometimes we say. Chola Juk and Chola Lama. So then we enter the Dharma, and the Dharma helps us to enter the paths, and then we able to achieve the goals of the paths, right? So contemplating that in the permanence is a very powerful motivation to make sure we enter the spiritual path and then progress on the spiritual path. And we see that same thing. People who enter spirituality, some people when they have an experience of the near-death experience, or a person in their family or a dear friend passes away, and people start thinking, oh, that's going to happen to me as well. And then some people start to generate interest in there's maybe more important things than just this life. Yeah? And you can see that in the near-death experience, in the science behind it, that the majority of the people, when they can talk about that, because that's often very important, then their life becomes very much more value. They don't fear death anymore. Their life becomes very positive and a lot of kind of spiritual and compassionate. Yeah, it's very interesting. So that means that even the science of recognizing death and impermanence brings great benefits to people. Yeah, yeah. But so why would you try to escape a reality? Yeah, that death is coming. Yeah, so why would you fear reality, as Carlo Rovelli said in his book on the order of time? Yeah, Carlo Rovelli says, fear for death is a fault in evolution. Why would you fear something that's a reality? It's very interesting from a physicist. Yeah, yeah. So so here in verse 58, because also the Buddha, as you know, the first teaching of the Buddha was impermanence, right? Oh, the first noble truth of suffering, has 4 aspects. The first aspect is impermanent, right? First teaching, impermanent. Then throughout the teachings, the Buddha always refers back to the 4 seals of Buddhist philosophy. And what's the first seal of Buddhist philosophy? Dujya tamje miktakbhas, mean all compounded phenomena are impermanent, right? And then during the last teaching of the Buddha, when Ananda and others asked the Buddha, what do we do without a teacher? Yeah, when the Buddha passed away. And the Buddha said, look, now the Tathagata is going into parinirvana. So also the last teaching was death and impermanence. Yeah? So death and impermanence can be very powerful, you know. Because that really helps us to practice purely and to keep going. Yeah, that's death and impermanence is very helpful for the mind. Yeah, so then you don't worry about little things in life anymore. You can deal with issues much better. The whole mind training we have, yeah, is based on the contemplation of death and impermanence. The more you contemplate death and impermanence, the less you will worry of little gobbly-goo things in life that otherwise disturbs your mind. And now you look at a bigger picture and think, yeah, that's just a little thing compared to lifetimes of suffering in samsara, you know. So then you don't worry about little things in life anymore. Yeah. So that impermanence has so many benefits, you know, to contemplate again and again. Yeah. And to general initiation, because based on seeing the momentary nature of our existence, or the happiness we sometimes experience, or we think everything is fine, but actually it's not. Yeah, it can change every moment into suffering, or the mind becomes unhappy again, or you get sick, or you get this sickness, that sickness. You cannot stop because it's not in our control. So you can see that, you know, that impermanence motivates us to do something and start right now. Yeah, so that's kind of a very important aspect. And then, lifetime after lifetime is just constant suffering. Yeah, that if you don't start now, then you just keep cycling around. Yeah, as human beings, is maybe not too bad, but it depends where you are born on the planet. Yeah, but still, there's no guarantee you get the same rebirth, right? Oh, it says best of man or best of women. Yeah, since everything is impermanent, devoid of self. Refugeless, protectorless, homeless, free your mind from samsara. That's what you have to do, which is like a pitiless plant and tree. Yeah, so it's often, this plant and tree is the English version. So it's often referring to, similar to a banana tree. Do you know banana tree? Yeah. So the banana tree doesn't have a really trunk. You know, it's just hollow inside. Yeah. There's no essence. Yeah. Yeah, so the banana tree is not, we say banana tree, but actually it's not really a tree, it's more a plant. Yeah, but there's no essence in there. Yeah, so our life, if you really look, also there's no real essence in worldly aspects of life, you know. Yeah, and there's nothing that protects us. Yeah, that's what it says here. There's no devoid of self. Refugeless. Yeah, there's no I. Many people, they hold on to this I, and you think everything is fine because this I is there. But this I doesn't exist. Yeah. So if you hold on to this I, it's very easy to grasp to permanence, and you think everything is fine. I'm here, and there's no problems. Yeah. Because the more you hold on to this I, an inherent I, yeah, the more you grasp to permanence, and you think things will not change, or it will always be the same, you know. But there is no I such as that. There is no permanent independent self, you know. And if you see there is no I to hold on upon, so what's there? There's your body and there's your mind. And that's in the nature of cause and effect relationships, right? So if there's no I to hold on upon, then what happens in your next life is just cause and effect relationships of what you are doing now, and that produces a next lifetime. Yeah, so then you start to think, oh, maybe I have to work on the law of cause and effect, yeah, to understand what we call karma, you know, because that's completely there. Yeah. But there's no I to hold on upon, or to guard you, or to save you, or that doesn't exist, right? There's no inherent I as such. So if there's only karma in the continuity of consciousness, so to say, or the continuity of the mere person, then you might think, oops, that's scary, you know. And then you come to the conclusion that maybe it's good to live in accordance with karma. Yeah. So that's, in Tibetan there is a saying, we say, Tendrel dik means to organize dependent origination. That you organize, you cannot organize law of cause and effect, but you can live in accordance with the law of cause and effect. That's what it means. Yeah. So if you understand the law of cause and effect, then you live in accordance to that, and then you produce a precious human rebirth if you do it correctly. And that's why we say the main purpose or the main cause for a precious human rebirth, or the substantial cause for a precious human rebirth, is a practice of morality, right? Yeah. So that's very clear. Why? Because morality helps us to live in accordance with the law of cause and effect. Yeah, because with morality, you don't engage in negative behaviors. Yeah, you don't engage in harming self and harming others. So that's why morality is so crucial. Yeah, because there's no I that protects you and you can hold on to. It's just this continuity that's there, and that continuity, propels itself in the future by previous habituation patterns, right? Yeah, so that's why you have to develop your mind in this way in order to produce a good future. Yeah, that's why we say in Buddhism we don't believe in a creator, we create our own reality, we create our own future. Yeah, so that's why it's very important to contemplate these points and see there's no essence in samsaric existence and focus on the future lifetimes, because that's much longer in duration, right? Yeah. Yeah, so that's a little bit about verse 57, 8. Yeah. So then we go to 59, as you can see on the screen. Yeah. Yeah. So then, 59 and 60, those two verses, they talk about presumed rebirth. Yeah, the previous verses we talked about death and impermanence. Yeah, normally in the traditional Lamrim we first have presumed rebirth and then death and impermanence, but they also, you can join them together, right? So that's kind of, because this text is one of the Lamrim texts of ancient India, right? And also the Nagarjuna's commentary on the Bodhisattva, commentary on Bodhicitta, which we will do in September, October and November, right? And then next year we're planning to do Aryadeva's 400 verses. Yeah, so also Aryadeva 400 verses is very much a Lamrim text of ancient India with some more extra aspects of philosophy, yeah, particularly the philosophy of emptiness is in there as well, right? Yeah, so it's a very precious text, actually, if you really think about it. Yeah. Because most of our Lamrim texts, they quote from these verses what we're going to talk about now, 59 and 60. Yeah, there's most of the Lamrim texts of the 18 freedoms and endowments, yeah, the 8 freedoms, they come from Nagarjuna's letter for a friend, right? And the 10 endowments come from Asanga's Sravaka Bhumi, yeah, the ground of hero, yeah, hero ground, I think we translate Sravaka Bhumi, Nyatukisa. Yeah, so then you can see that if you study the 18 freedoms and endowments, there's a little bit of an overlap between the first 8 and the last 10. And why is there an overlap? Because there's 2 sources. One is Arya Nagarjuna's letter for a friend, the text we are studying now. And the other one, the 10 are from Asanga's Sravaka Bhumi, right? So that's kind of 2 sources, yeah, so that's why. But yeah, it all goes back to the sutras, yeah? Because Asanga and Nagarjuna, they took it from the sutras, yeah. Okay, so then in verse 59, there it says, "O Lord of man, and Lord of woman," yeah, make this. Oh, what is it? I thought we read something that's similar today. Yeah, and then best of man, it says in the previous one. Yeah, so here it says Lord of man, Lord of woman. Make this human life fruitful by practicing the holy Dharma, for it is more difficult to obtain. Yeah, so with a human rebirth. Yeah, so from animal states, yeah, that's this tortoise or this turtle, right? And to place his neck in this ring, that wooden yoke that is drifting on the ocean. Yeah, so this turtle lives down in the ocean, and I mean, it's not a real turtle, it's just an example, right? So this turtle comes up once every 100 years to the surface, so the turtle has to become very old, otherwise it's not possible, right? But yeah, this is an example, right? So that the turtle comes up to the surface once every 100 years. So that by itself is just a higher rebirth. So most of the time the turtle is down deep in the lower states of existence, meaning in deep in the ocean. Yeah, so that gives the example of the difficulty of a higher rebirth. Yeah, and then for that turtle, if you have just think about the Atlantic or the big oceans, and there's a yoke drifting, a golden yoke often says, or a wooden yoke, that's like this size. Yeah. So if the turtle goes up, and that's just been going around in different oceans by the winds, right? So if you have all the oceans in the world, it can end up anywhere. Yeah. And then for the turtle to put his head inside a ring is nearly impossible if the turtle only comes up once every 100 years. So then you can, and this comes from the sutra, right? This quote. It's not that the Buddha is lying about things. So that means to put your head, for the turtle to put the head in the yoke is basically impossible. And that's what we call a pressure human rebirth. And we think, yes, but I have this pressure human rebirth, it's not too difficult. Look, I have it. Yeah, but to get it, that's very difficult. Yeah, so to get this, if you look at from the point of view, why is it difficult? We have from the point of view of cause, from the point of view of numbers, or point of view of nature, as we say, and from the point of view of example. Yeah, so this is an example. Yeah, there's other examples from the sutras that, to try to keep sand on your needle, and then whatever sand that is, if you throw sands up in the air, and then you put your thumb needle underneath it, and then see how many pieces of sand stick on your needle. Nail, I should say, right? Yeah. So your nail of your thumb or the finger, you throw sand up, and then you see how many pieces of sand are stuck on top of your nail, right? Yeah, that's almost nothing compared to all the sand on this planet, So that's a similar example that comes from the sutras, right? That's very difficult. But for us, logically, it's helpful to look at the cause. From the point of view, the cause is difficult because practicing morality is just not easy. Yeah, to practice pure morality for people is just not easy, right? For humans, it's not easy, and forget animals. There's no way animals can practice morality, right? So for humans, it's even difficult. Yeah, so you can imagine from the point of view of cause, and then not just morality, but then morality has to have a staleness prayer. Yeah, we say that are the two causes for practicing rebirth: practicing morality and a staleness prayer. So staleness prayer means not just, oh, may I have a practicing rebirth, but rebirth for the purpose of, developing yourself. Yeah, so that becomes a precious rebirth, right, with all the conditions, because you need the conditions of meeting the Dharma and things like that, right? So you need to make that prayer together with morality. So morality is very difficult, and to have a prayer like that together is just, for the average human on this planet, very difficult. If you see how many people are really interested in the Dharma, to study it and put it into practice, is very rare, So from the second point, from the point of view of number, yeah, or nature, as we say, just look how many people on this planet are interested in developing their minds. There's not many. People just want to have money, and that's the main thing. They don't know. They think money will bring them happiness or benefit, right? So the majority of the people are not interested in spirituality. Then those who are interested in spirituality, how many people are really trying to studying it? Very, very few. Very few, Particularly with Buddhism, we see that there's many people interested in what we call the Sunday afternoon Buddhists. Yeah, they like to hear a little bit and, oh yeah, interesting, and then talk to their friends, I'm a Buddhist, and blah, blah, blah. But then they're not really studying it and not really put it into practice, right? It's very rare a few of you, luckily, are in study programs, right? So that's so important, to develop your mind over time, to gain the knowledge over time. Yeah, but as many people do a little bit this here, this there, that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you really want to develop your mind in a very structured way to liberation and enlightenment, you have to put some effort, right? Yeah, so then from the point of view number, how many people are really studying it and putting it into practice is a very small number. Yeah, there's still some people who are studying it, and then you see how many people are doing retreats and developing their minds. It's just very, very few, So then you see from the point of view of number how rare it is to have this incredible opportunity, right? Yeah, and that's just humans. And then if you look at animal realm, there's more animals than humans. It's pretty obvious. Just insects, just ants. There's more ants than humans. Yeah. So if you see how many animals there are, there's much more animals than humans. So they also have consciousness and they have to be born. So it's much easier to be born in those states because there's so many more in number, right? And then spirits is even more than that. And then the hell realms, we're going to skip a few verses about hell realms. But yeah, there's even more beings in the hell realms than spirits, you know. So then you see that to be born as human in general, that's this turtle coming, blind turtle, right? Not just any turtle, a blind one, coming to the surface once every 100 years. That's a higher rebirth. But then to stick his head in this yoke is just by chance, right? So this, what we call, precious human rebirth, the 18 freedoms and endowment is kind of the impossible that becomes possible, if you really think. So that's why it's so important to recognize that. If you really recognize this, then you won't waste time. You know this life is so precious and so short. Yeah, if you combine it with impermanence and death, then you really won't waste too much time. You know, so that's the purpose of these contemplations, right? And in Lamrim, we always have to know, why do I meditate on this? How do I do it? And how do I know I did it correctly? Yeah, so those 3 points are very important in every topic of the Lamrim. What's the purpose of this meditation? Why do I have to do this? Yeah. So with death and impermanence and precious human rebirth is to wake us up and take this essence and not waste time. Yeah, that's the purpose, right? And then how do you do that? By contemplating, we just talked about death and impermanence from the point of view of the 3 roots, and the 3 roots, each of the 3 have 3 reasons, as we briefly went over, right? And then with the precious human rebirth, you meditate on the 18 freedoms and endowments and see how difficult it is to obtain, and see that it has great meaning. Yeah? Because by having a precious human rebirth, you can achieve or create causes for another precious human rebirth in the next life and future lifetimes, and you can create causes for liberation, and you can create causes for enlightenment. Yeah, so there's great purpose, and every moment of our lives we can create causes for that. So every moment actually is in that way very precious, you know. Yeah. Yeah, so the 18 freedoms and endowments, yeah, most of you know them already inside out, I suppose. But yeah, so there it says, by practicing the holy Dharma. I'm still on 59 actually. Oh. Yeah, because by practicing the holy Dharma, for it is more difficult to obtain. Yeah, human birth. Yeah, so that's from animal states. Yeah, oh yeah, that's it. Sorry. Yeah, we go to 60 then. I just give Kunjok a hard time. You know, Kunjok is doing the tech as well as everything else. Yeah. Yeah, 60. Having obtained a human birth, one who commits sins is more foolish than the one who fills a jewel adorned with golden vessel with vomit. Kare, 60. Vomit or excrement, it says in the other translation. So you can choose. But yeah, what it talks about is if you have a precious vessel with 18 jewels, yeah, a golden vessel with 18 jewels on it, and you just use it as a garbage can, then most people in the world think you're stupid, right? So similarly, Nagarjuna is saying, we have this precious vessel of human existence with this 18 jewels, the freedoms and endowments, so better use it rather than use it as a garbage can, right? Yeah, so that's kind of what Nagarjuna. So this is a very famous quote you see in many of the Lamrims, right? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, better use this precious human rebirth. Yeah. Then in verse 61, you possess the 4 great conditions. So here it talks about 4 conditions that or like wheels. You know, if you have carriage to travel to liberation. Yeah, you need wheels, right? Yeah. So in the wheels, here 4 great conditions. You can think about 4 wheels or 4 spokes in one wheel. Or depends, how creative you are. Yeah, but there's 4 main conditions. Yeah, so dwelling in a suitable place, it says. Yeah, means a favorable place. Yeah, that means you need the right conditions. Yeah, for that it's not too noisy and that has the right conditions for contemplation and practice. Right, not too hot, not too cold kind of aspects as well. You need favorable conditions. Yeah. But also, the most important favorite condition is from the mind. Yeah, and for every form of meditation or retreat, the 2 most important conditions are Dojung and Geshe, means few desires, and contentment. Yeah, so few desires and contentment. It's very important. If you have few desires and contentment, you can stay in many places without really feeling uncomfortable or without wanting more or wanting something else. Yeah? So that's why contentment and few desires is very good. So our volunteers in Jamyang, they have trained in that because they stay in cells, very basic. Yeah. So contentment and kasa and few desires is very helpful. If you have that, then you can live very simple and without, be completely happy and content, And it's I often mention a story in Gyume Monastery. We don't live in cells, but we have like a room with 7 roommates and bed to bed, and you have half of a table, and you can only put a few books, and that's it. For the rest, you have 1 plate, 1 cup, 1 spoon, and that's it. Why do we need more? Yeah, it's a very simple life, Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, so then you can see. And I met many meditators who live in very basic conditions, sometimes without electricity, without running water, but very content, So that means that the real contentment comes from the mind, right? So if you have these 2 main conditions, of course you need external conditions, but those 2 conditions are very essential. Yeah, so dwelling in a suitable place. Relying upon the holy ones. So if there's a place, the holy ones meaning the teachers, right? The virtuous friends, as we say. Yeah, and in particular, if a place is blessed by holy beings, then it's much easier to meditate there. Yeah, so if you visit, for example, His Holiness rooms in the different monasteries in India, His Holiness have only stayed there for a few weeks every few years, or maybe 1 week every few years, but still there's an incredible blessing in those places. Also Lama Zopa Rinpoche's rooms in the various places of centers, and like in India and Tushita or Kopan for that regard, is so special. There is something there, So that means if you're close to a holy being or holy object, and that's why we have holy objects, it's very easy for the mind to transform. Yeah, so yeah. That's why we need that as well, Then the 3rd one, having religiously applied yourself in former lives. Yeah, so that means that. And the last one is here. Allez. Yeah, so the other translation refers to the 3rd one, having kind of virtuous aspiration, Holy ones. Ale, that maybe he is put together, because the former lives is more referring to the last one, accumulation of merit. Yeah, so having religiously applied yourself, that means having a virtuous aspiration. Yeah, that's what's very important. And then the 3rd one, of course, having trained your mind in previous states of existence, meaning having accumulated merit. Yeah, so if that's the case, you have these 4 factors, then also now we have to accumulate those 4 factors in order in the future to be able to have the right conditions, right? Yeah, so there are the 4 wheels or the wheels of a carriage, you know. Yeah. Then it says in verse 62, the sage said, the Buddha said that reliance upon the spiritual friend completes the path to holiness, or the path to to accomplish the spiritual path. Since very many obtain peace to relying upon the conqueror, rely upon the holy ones. Yeah, so 62 is referring to the reliance on the virtuous friend. Yeah, the Lamrim, it comes as the first topic, right? Reliance on the virtuous friend. But here it comes after precious human rebirth. In one way, it makes sense, because our inner condition, first here Nagarjuna's structure is slightly different from the common Lamrims, right? But there's something to say for that, probably, because first you contemplate death and impermanence. They think, oops, I'm going to die, right? Then you meditate on the precious human rebirth and say, oh, wow, I have this inner condition, that's amazing. And then you think about our external condition, the virtuous friend. So that's also a way you could meditate on the Lamrim, right, in this sequence. Yeah, first impermanence to wake you up, yeah, and then seeing you have this incredible potential as your inner condition, and then seeing you also have an outer condition of reliance on the virtuous friend, yeah. So then it boosts that kind of understanding of this potential, right? If you're convinced about your inner kind of potential of the precious human rebirth, and then on top of that you have this precious virtuous friend, then you say, oh wow, and I'm not gonna live forever, so better use this inner and outer condition, right? Yeah. And then of course that verse is also referring 62, referring to the reliance on the teacher, right? So then you have, first of all, have to examine the teacher, as we know, check if the teacher has the qualities, and then rely to thought and to action. Yeah, and then rely to thought. We know there's various divisions of relying to thought by generating faith in the Guru, by contemplating the qualities, yeah, and generating kind of respect by contemplating the kindness, right? So that you can find back in the Lamrim, right, those contemplations on the relying to thought, right? Yeah. So yeah, the virtuous friend is just very important, even in sutra system, you know. And it mainly comes from the Vajrayana, but I mentioned before if you read the 8,000 verses, yeah, of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, then the Buddha himself, you know, Sakyamuni Buddha, was praising the always reaping Bodhisattva, right, who during one of the previous Buddhas accumulated a huge amount of merit in a few years, and one countless eon in a few years' time, by, of course, his skillful means and effort, but also his incredible devotion to the virtuous friend, right? So that's there as well. Yeah, so that's just an important point in the training. And I said before, you know, in Liberation of Palm Your Hand, there it says, Kepsang Gunna. If you want to have the benefit, you don't have to do this, but if you want to have the benefit, then this is possible. Yeah, so that's kind of, yeah, if you really want to progress quickly, then there's this kind of, special method, you know. All right, so then the next two verses, 63 and 64, are the summary of the 8 freedoms, yeah, as we mostly read in our Lamrim text. So when we talk about the 8 freedoms and 10 endowments, then the 8 freedoms are being explained in 62 and 64, and then the endowments come from Asanga's Sravaka Bhumi, yeah, from the other text. Yeah. Because in Lamrim we put all those 18 together, right? Yeah, because they come from 2 sources. And it's very interesting, 2 sources, because Nagarjuna is the trailblazer of the wisdom aspect, and Asanga is a trailblazer of the method aspect, right? As we know, Nagarjuna came to the earth when the view of the middle way was degenerated, right? And so Nagarjuna came, and then a few hundred years after that, Asanga came to explain the method aspect of the realization of the path, yeah, in the Lamrim, yeah. So that's why those 2 great masters came, you know, yeah. And then also here, interesting that one mentions 8 freedoms and Asanga mentions 10 endowments, both taken from different sources in the sutras, compile this together. So there it says, 63, probably you know this verse, or maybe you have memorized it already. However, whoever is born heretic, what does that mean?
Some version of the translation translates as someone holding a distorted
That's a wrong view, right? Yeah. There's a person, but heretic means the name. Heresy. Okay. Yeah. Go against. Yeah, because the mere meaning is holding wrong views, right? Yeah. So that means if you don't think about law of cause and effect, and there's no rebirth and no three jewels and things like that, then it prevents you from developing yourself, right? Yeah. So that's kind of a wrong view. Then that's very dangerous, because if you don't think there's liberation, you will never go to a path that explains liberation, right? That's pretty clear. So having a wrong view like that is an incredible obstacle. Yeah. So that's why it says, if you can see in your own mind, you don't have wrong views, And if you have, then you have to do something about it, right? You have to complete all these freedoms and endowments, right? Yeah. So that's why Nagarjuna put it as the first one, because wrong view is just very, very, can be very kind of destructive for our development, right? Yeah. So here it's not a wrong view between the different schools of Buddhist philosophy regarding no self, right? Here it's a much coarser form of a wrong view. Yeah. The wrong view that is basically negative and with very strong afflictions that can destroy positive potentials, right? Yeah. Then hungry ghost, help being. Barbarian. If we go to the animal here, whoever is born with wrong views, animal, hungry ghost, or help being, right? So there's 3 lower rebirths, yeah. So that's the first 4, right? There's two sets of 4, right? In the eight freedoms, right? We're not born with wrong views. We're not born as an animal. We're not born as a spirit, and we're not born in the hell realm. Yeah. So that's the first.
The Persian translation as a creeping creature.
Creeping creature, means 4-footer. Yeah. So humans are being considered as 2-footers, and animals are being considered as 4-footers. Yeah. So being born as with wrong views, animal, spirit, or help being. Yeah, that's the first 4 aspects. Yeah. Then the next 4 are fool, meaning mentally not able to function properly, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, see, a bit mixed up. Then a long-living God, or here the verses are pretty much mixed up, because we have the wrong. Normally we say not born in the 3 lower rebirths, and not being born as a long-living God, because as an animal it's very difficult to practice any dharma, even just to recite one Om Mani Padme Hum is impossible, right? And spirits are a little bit more intelligent, but there are many spirits who have a lot of obstacles of suffering or fear. It's for them also very difficult to practice the dharma. And then the hell beings even more, right? The hell beings are completely occupied by suffering without end. So then, as we see ourselves, and the long-living gods, they just blissing out, and so they think, oh, bliss, So then there's no interest in the Dharma, right? So same for us. If there's too much happiness, there's no interest in Dharma. If there's too much suffering, it's very difficult. Yeah. So that's kind of the same thing, right? And then there's the section of the other group of 4 is kind of wrong views, right? And the wrong view, then having mental impairments, right? And then being born in a place where the Buddha didn't teach, yeah, and being born in a barbaric country, as we say, yeah. So the first 3 quite straightforward. Being born in a barbaric country, that's different kind of interpretations, right? So one of the interpretations, according to Kasa, I saw a very good one in Sharma Lamrim. That's not translated yet, I think. One of the 18 great Lamrims, called Sharmar, Red Hat Lamrim. So there it talks about that, although even if the Buddha appeared, right, and taught, but if you don't have the conditions of people who practice the Dharma and who have what we call the realizations of scriptures and who uphold the Dharma of scripture and uphold the Dharma realizations. If you don't have that community, it's just very difficult to progress. Yeah, so we often say implies a kind of Sangha community, right? Who are practicing the Dharma. That's one interpretation. There's various interpretations to a barbaric country, but that's one I think is a very nice one and very accurate. It looks like makes sense. Yeah. So one is a place not being born where the Buddha taught the doctrine. Yeah. So if that's the case, you don't know what to adopt and what to abandon, right? And then if you're even born in a place like that, but it's very barbaric in the sense there are no practitioners, then you're just by yourself. Then it's very difficult without the support, right? Yeah. So you need a community who has the scriptures and the realizations aspects of the teachings of the Buddha. Yeah. Yeah. So that are the 8 freedoms, right? Yeah. And then the 10 endowments you can look in the Lamrim text for yourself. So you have 18 freedoms and endowments, right? And then in modern times we add one more to it, and that is time, number 19. Yeah. Everybody's very busy, and nobody has time for spiritual development, so that's kind of another thing we should look at and make sure we have the time as well, and we make the time as well. Yeah, so that is more or less a summary of verse 63 and 64, right? Yeah, so if you see you have those freedoms, yeah, then you're not born into the lower realms, you're not born long-living God, you don't have wrong views, you don't have mental impairments that prevent you from developing in this context, and you're not born in a place where the Buddha didn't come, and you're not born in a barbaric country, yeah, then you have quite good conditions, yeah, and then of course you can add the other 10 and see if you have those endowments as well. And then you see how fortunate you are. If you then also have time to use and take the essence, then you should really take the essence and not wait till you are with your pension or something like that, because then it's too late, right? Kunta Rinpoche gave this incredible autobiography of the first 20 years of my life. I was too young to think about Dharma, first of all. The next 20 years of my life, I thought, okay, better enjoy while I'm still young. And then the next 20 years of my life, I thought, okay, later on when I'm old, I'm going to practice the Dharma. And the last 20 years of my life, I regretted I didn't start earlier. So that's kind of what he says. This is a biography of an empty yogi, so don't go that direction. Yeah, so that's a little bit. If you really contemplate the precious rebirth and death and impermanence, it should move you to take the essence, right? That's very important. Right? Okay, so maybe we stop there for tonight and this evening. Yeah. Yeah, so if there's questions, then we can do a few.
So we'll do questions in the Gompa first, if we have any questions. There's a question.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you have a question.
Thank you, Geshe. Talking about precious human rebirth, if there were people who are suffering severely through mental or physical disabilities or suffering, and we find ourselves thinking, oh, maybe they would be better off not being alive because there's so much suffering, is that a thought that would need purifying? Is that a bad thought?
Yeah, because stopping life by itself is kind of what we call non-virtuous, right? And to stop their life doesn't imply in the next life they better. Yeah, so it can be just that by the power of experiencing this, they might purify something, and the next life is better. But you have to see case by case, right? But better have a wish for them to be free of that, right? And then I think if people have an incurable kind of disease in this life, to make a prayer that in the future lifetimes may they be free of this and develop their minds, Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a small suggestion. Obviously, the translation here is good, but there's a good translation, a guy called Alexander Berzin.
Yeah, on Berzin Archives.
Berzin, Study Buddhism, and you cite very good
just
translation.
in the beginning we made somehow we decided this translation without looking at it properly. Yeah.
Okay, online people, has anyone got any questions?
Online people, hello.
Okay, Taro, you have a question.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you again, Lau, for the teaching. So, when you spoke of, with respect, causes for precious human rebirth, and in such a lovely way reminding us of the importance of morality, of ethics, you also, if I understood right, noted that another substantial cause was, you said, a stainless prayer, yes?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so that's a prayer to be reborn in order to develop, in order to practice Dharma. So somehow in all my teachings, I must have missed that little part. And
you've been praying without it.
So, well, I know in this life, but somehow, or maybe I'm sure I've been taught this and it just didn't stick. But it made me wonder. So that's a substantial cause for any of us, all of us in the Zoom screen, all of us in the room, or is that, and so could that have taken a form in some other, I'm trying to think of a way to formulate it, but say imagine somebody in a different religious tradition, but they still had a prayer to be reborn and be of benefit to others, not in a Buddhist context, or is it literally, no, you had to have already met the Dharma and said, I want to come back here in order to continue developing in the Dharma for others.
Yeah, so like morality by itself is a cause for higher rebirths, right? Yeah, but we just don't want just to have a higher rebirth as a human, for example. We want a precious human rebirth. So in order to direct that root of virtue, of the practice of morality, we need a prayer or a dedication. And that dedication should be stainless in the sense, not just may I have a perfect human rebirth, but may I have a precious human rebirth in order to develop. And then that morality becomes a cause for a precious human rebirth with freedoms and endowments, and you again enter the path and continue, right?
So that wish to develop, again, that needs already to be from a perspective of having met the Dharma in the way we speak about it now, or it could be from, again, others, just trying to practice the golden rule in Christianity, for example.
It depends what you want to do, it's kind of, because if you practice morality in general, and you pray to become a Christian priest or to benefit people in that way, then that morality will be a cause for that, right?
Okay.
So you have to think there's no person sitting here and making decisions, or you are deciding. Is It's just to continue your habituation that is moved in particular ways, right? Yeah. So then if you pray for human rebirth, meet the Dharma and things like that, then it becomes a cause for that, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, boy, I had a second question, but I lost it. I'll come back. There might be others with questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is there any other questions in the Gompa or online?
Yeah. Musa.
How do you contemplate the meaningfulness of precious human rebirth?
The meaningfulness.
Yeah, like you said, like every moment you can create causes.
Meaningful, yeah.
Yeah.
So we say meaningful because of the purpose of great purpose, right? So great purpose means it's threefold. Yeah, you have great purpose of achieving a precious human rebirth in the future. You can create the causes for that. You can create the causes for liberation, and you can create the causes for enlightenment in this rebirth, right? So that's kind of the meaning of great purpose, yeah. And then there's also a line that it says the meaning of every moment. That every moment we can create causes for these three purposes, so to say. You can practice morality, where the prayer becomes a cause for practicing rebirth, or practice renunciation and emptiness becomes a cause for liberation, or based on bodhicitta, contemplation and emptiness becomes a cause for enlightenment. Yeah. So every moment you can use this practicing rebirth for that purpose, right?
Yeah. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. She's back, and she's just give somebody else a question now.
Sorry.
She remembered.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
if there's space for another question.
Yeah.
So Genma, when you were speaking of the four great conditions and part of suitable place, and you mentioned, ideally if a place has been blessed by the holy ones, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, in the context of, say, the information theoretic insights you often share with us, how does it work to think about a place being blessed?
Yeah.
Like what's the, I don't know if I have the right question, like I think when one interacts directly with a guru or with a guru's teaching, something like that, and one's thinking of the Dharma passing in those kinds of ways, orally through text, etc.
I mean, just places where holy beings have meditated before, right? That place carries a kind of blessing, and it's easier to meditate in those places, right? But you could also, if you don't have a place like that, then you could get a holy object or holy images, which also gives this kind of blessing and helps us to. And if you really have strong faith and you recite the King of Prayers, then the Buddhas are everywhere. And they, when Kandala was here once, when she was requested to do a consecration of a statue, then she said, "It's funny, isn't it? We do all this kind of rituals, but actually if you have faith in the King of Prayers, then they are everywhere." So if you have that kind of faith, then the place is blessed, right? Yeah.
Okay, I'll try and formulate that a little more specifically too later. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. One more on the front. Yeah. Sorry, you have to run.
I was just wondering, because you said that it's hard to create merit as an animal, and I was thinking of the stories of when before the Buddha was reborn as Shakyamuni, and he was the Monkey King, if I remember it right. Was that because he was already a bodhisattva, and that's how he was able?
That's something else, right?
Yeah.
So an Arya bodhisattva or a Buddha who emanates in the form of an animal is not an animal, right? It's an emanation of an animal, but it's not an animal. So that means it's an emanation of an animal for the purpose of benefiting beings in that realm or other beings, right? If that's the only way to make a connection, then they can decide to do that. Because the thing, people who do not have a connection with the Dharma, if it's humans or if it's animals, the only way to get a connection is meeting a holy object or meeting a holy being, right? So that's why they're so skillful, or they emanate in the aspect of a beggar, that somebody gives something to them and then they make a connection, right? So that's kind of various ways they engage in means to connect beings with the Dharma, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it. Geshe.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's dedicate, as we just talked about, the need for stainless prayer, yeah, in order to create causes of the virtue we accumulate. In particular, then we talk about morality, but every virtue, to dedicate it for a particular purpose, and then the result will be in accordance with that, right? So that's why we spend always time in dedication, yeah, to dedicate not only for precious rebirth, but also for developing on the spiritual path all the way up to enlightenment. Yeah, so generate bodhicitta and realize emptiness, be free of obstacles, and those kind of prayers are very important, and that's why we always dedicate, right? And then you can think you who's dedicating, and the dedication and the aim we dedicate towards too are in the nature of dependent origination, yeah, and in the nature of empty of existing from their own side. So that proves, that's what we call the words of the truth, or why these dedications actually bring fruit, right? So think in those lines when we recite the dedications, yeah.
Dagi jine sape gewadi tenan troa kuna kampenda Gepa jesun no sandrapai tempe nimpo rindu sajeshu Kare rawe korwe sinkam so penan dewa malu jumene Chere zingwan tenzin gyasoi shape site badu tengyuchi Homage to Manjushri, the youthful. In this way, the awakened one, the transcendent Lord, the wisdom Kaya, spontaneously arisen, the single-eyed wisdom entirely unobscured, the light of wisdom forever shining brightly. To you, Arapasana, I pay homage. To you, the very embodiment of wisdom, I bow. Thus it is explained by all the perfect Buddhas. This concludes his teaching spoken by the transcendent Lord Shakyamuni, the essence of the perfect recitation of the names of the wisdom being the transcendent Lord Manjushri. Tu tenji dahan jang gyung yewe ten chu gyo bella ka che rab su pa sun den yu mi zi pa chu gi je da dre tempe pel du nyu jun shu Janchu Senchu Rinpoche Magye Panange Gyuchi Gyepa Nyampa Mepaya Gone Konde Bewa Sho Toni Tawa Rinpoche Magye Panange Gyuchi Gyepa Nyampa Mepaya Gone Konde Bewa Sho. And as long as space remains, as long as migrators remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the suffering of migrators. May the King of Dharmas and Kappa's way of Dharma practice flourish. May the omens of obstacles be pacified and all conducive circumstances be complete. Through the power of having made single point of request to you, Losandropta, may all unfortunate manifestations of a degenerate age, illness, famine, quarrelling, epidemic disease, Gara spirits, interferers, and so forth be pacified, and may excellent collections of conducive conditions increase. Please bless me that my wishes be swiftly fulfilled. By invoking the power, loving kindness, and compassion of Chenrezig, and through the force of making extensive prayers, may all sickness, war, fighting, and famine be completely pacified, so that beings have long, healthy, and happy lives. May the glorious Guru's lives be long and stable, and may all beings equal in the extent of space have happiness. And may I and others, without exception, accumulate merit and purify negativities, and may we be blessed to quickly attain Buddhahood. Kyawa Kundu Yalda Lama Dan Drame Chiki Pala Lochochi Sadan Langi Uten Rabzune Doje Changi Kumpanu Tusho.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, good night, evening, first, and then night. Yeah, and then see you soon. Yeah, thank you.